with me, but here I am.
Well, it looks like Hannah has started recording, so let's get this party started. Hello, everyone who is here or watching this from home. My name is Asada Gilmore, and I have the honor of serving as president of Purdue Student Government for the 2020-2021 school year. That year will be important in just a few seconds. And with me today is...
My name is Hannah Dar, and I have the honor and pleasure of serving as the Purdue Student Government Vice President.
And today so you want to be president or vice president of PSG, and we want to make sure you have all the tools that you need to do that successfully. So we've got the most famous PSG alums with us here today, who are going to walk you through their journeys and what they knew, what they wished they knew, and how their involvement as a student leader changed their lives. And so we're going to start with introductions. They're going to give you their name, their year, their former position, as well as their campaign slogan. And so we're going to start with the youngest. Paul, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'm the youngest. Okay, I was student body president from, how many minutes do I got? 500 minutes? No, I was student body president from 63 to 64. Now remember what happened in 63. JFK was assassinated. Okay, so anything can happen when you're president. I remember watching the TV screen announcing that his death, and I ran out to the flagpole to pull down the flag to half mast, and it had already been done by somebody else. You know, that's one of the vivid memories I have of that time. I don't know Purdue today, so I can tell you, let me just tell you a little bit. At the time that I was there, I lived in Cary Hall all my life. I mean, all my student life, okay? And there was a split, I don't know today, I'm talking about then. There was a split between the Greeks and the independents, okay? And I had been a senator the year before I ran, and I had originally planned to run whoever, I was with a group that sort of decided who would be running for president and vice president. Well, I don't exactly remember why, but I was unhappy with the result, so I decided to run. As an independent, I decided to run with a Greek to overcome that division, okay, if you want to put it that way. And it worked. That's why I got to be president. But for my vice president, it didn't work. Okay, so the vice president was elected as an independent. Okay, and that's a guy named Dick Hazelton, who could have been here, I guess, tonight. I guess he probably was invited if he's still alive. The main, I mean, it was a wonderful experience because, I mean, you know, the student, the paper's reporting on you every day about something or other. As it turned out, I had much better grades than my competitor, and I was told, I don't know, I was told that women liked people who had better grades, and that may have turned the tide because the grades were reported in the paper. Okay, and the other, so the main, I don't want to spend too much time, but the other main thing and now it's serious. Okay. That was the beginning of the near the beginning of the civil rights movement, okay? And I mean, you're in a completely different situation today than you were then, but it's really great if you want to accomplish something, not just be president, but to leave a mark, okay? Whether I did or not, I mean, I at least try to do so. So I think that's enough for the moment, but I'll still stay on from online.
Yeah, no, you started us off in the right way. Thank you so much. Caroline, let's head on to you.
Would you remind me of the questions, please? I'm sorry, I was lost in his wisdom. Thank you, Paul.
Oh, I get it. Your name, your former position, the year you held your position. If your partner's on the line, you can shout them out. And then what was your campaign slogan?
Okay, gotcha. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Caroline McKinney. I see some familiar faces, including my brother, Brad McKinney. You might notice we have the same last name. And hi, Brett. Brett was president when I was a freshman. So good to see you all. I was vice president in 2014 and 2015. And ironically, Bobby Haddix, who was my president, lives in Austin, Texas here with me now. So crazy. We're both from Indiana, not from here, but we live here now. So let's see. Our campaign slogan was Dream Big. And of course, it was an acronym because they always are, right? And if I can remember correctly, oh, why am I doing this to myself? I believe it was Dream Big. It was the Boilermaker experience, inclusion, and something that started with a G. So I really enjoyed my experience. Am I supposed to go deeper? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
We'll hit surface level right now, but we'll come back.
Perfect, that sounds great. Well, good to see you all, thanks.
You too. How about Jim Chisholm and not Jim Baca? We'll come to you next.
No problem. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I was student body president 97 to 98. The year prior I was IFC senator. The slogan we did was bring back the pride. That was, I think the year I was president was Tiller took over. So athletics was on the downswing, if you will. So we're looking to institute a pep rally and parade. So we did get the pep rally in that year. So we're excited about that. So I'll take some credit for turning the Boilermakers around.
As you should, yes. Jim Baca.
Yeah, so I pick up right where Jim left off. I was at Purdue during the glory days. I was president from 2000 to 2001 with one of my classmates you may have heard of, Drew Brees. So senior year culminated in the Rose Bowl. So thanks, Jim, for setting the foundation for us there. I was PSG president. And I kid you not, this is great. My slogan was absolute vision. Vote on SS Info. It's been 20 years. I still have this shirt. It's great. I love it. And I'll get into more of the stories later. But met my wife at Purdue, and she still organizes everything today. But she made me a scrapbook with all of the Exponent articles that I was in. So I was able to go back tonight, because it's been 20 years, people. I don't remember anything, and actually see some of the issues and stuff. And it was very fun for me to do. And we can get into that a bit later.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Jessica?
Hey everybody, Jessica Engel. I was student body president 2005, 2006 with Brad McKinney. So it's so fun to be back together. I had to think really hard about what our slogan was. So Brad, you can fact check me if I'm wrong, but I just remember on our bag tags, I don't know if they still do bag tags, but on our bag tag it said, I think it was your voice, your Purdue. And so our whole platform was around trying to empower the students to speak up more and speak into what they actually wanted to see on campus. So.
We do not, I don't think we have bag tags.
You got to bring back the bag tags. Do you guys even know what that is? I feel like we're dating ourselves now. We would have these little paper laminated like flyers, and then we would safety pin them to our bags to walk across campus. So you would essentially have advertising, and you would sort of, stake who you're going to vote for depending on whose bag tag you had. So now I feel very old. Thank you.
No, are you guys taking notes? Bag tags.
Yeah, bring them back.
Brad, do you want to go next?
Sure. Yes, I am Brad McKinney. I am the McKinney and Hoffman McKinney. We were ticket number 2 in 2006. And yes, that is correct. Our slogan was your voice, your Purdue. And I believe we were in the early days of Facebook advertising because I remember Jessica was showing me how you could target, people with certain things on their profiles, and my mind was just blown. And now that's as low hanging fruit as bag tags were for us. So funny how things change. Good to be with you all.
It's good to have you, Brett, and then we'll finish with Joe.
Hey there, I'm Brett Hiley. I was PSG president 2011, 2012, and our motto we thought was brilliant at the time was moving Purdue forward, and we thought that until the first day after spring break when we learned that one of the other campaigns had the exact same motto as well. So we were united in our in our wishes not to move pretty backwards, at least. And part of our campaign also revolved around a music video that we produced and starred in that to this day is the most embarrassing thing I have on the internet.
I am starting to look for it right now. Thank you, Brett.
Yeah.
Operative word being still on the internet, so I'm looking for a link at some point. Yeah. Is it my turn, Madam President?
Yes, it is.
Gotcha. Hey guys, my name is Joe. I was the student body president in 2019-2020 academic year. Currently unemployed and searching for work. But our campaign slogan was "With you, for you, together." And that was just kind of how we grounded everything from campaign to administration, was brought back to our purpose, our why.
And he's saying we because him, Joe, and I were president, me, VP.
Yeah, shout out Asada.
So exciting to be back in the groove. So without further ado, Hannah, do you want to take us to our first question?
Yeah, I think Paul talked a little bit about this, but the first question we wanted to ask was, why did you want to run for office, or I guess maybe how you got to the spot where you decided you wanted to run?
Can I ask just a sort of a foundational question? Is everybody else on the call a candidate or potential candidate then? So Olivia, Tyler, Jemima, Shannon, and Veronica, you all candidates?
Could be candidates, could be considering running.
They're a little nervous.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
unofficial, but I guess everyone on the call is willing to learn more.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like spoil any like big campaign announcements or anything, but you're attending to weigh whether you'd like to run. Essentially, I just want to know who's who. That's helpful.
And I do want to just give a little bit of. We have three senators here. We've got a member and 3 members of the board of directors and a member of cabinet. So they're heavily involved in student government. They have that background. And Shannon is also our city councilwoman for West Lafayette. So since we have a more intimate time tonight, I think this is your chance to take advantage of it. But okay, yes, Hannah, sorry, keep going.
Okay, yeah, so we'll kind of popcorn around for whoever wants to answer. But how did you decide that you wanted to run, or how did you get to the place, even maybe where you got involved in student government?
I'll jump in since I started blabbing first, and it's kind of fitting since most of you are involved with PSG already. That was my avenue as well. I started as assistant director of something doing grunt work my freshman year, but I really loved it and did it my sophomore year where I believe I did campus relations, and then was in the cabinet with Jessica our junior year, did programming, and that was a big thing we were trying to boost. And PSG has the most money, at least it did then. So there's just a lot you can do. And with that comes, a freedom, and I think power is the wrong word, but you really feel like you can deliver for the students. And so really just being in PSG and getting a taste of what you can do was why I decided ultimately to run. It just sort of seemed like the natural progression.
My answer is pretty simple. I met Asada. Honestly, I was on the sustainability committee, which I was like feeling very impassioned about. We were slaying the game. I see Shannon giving snaps because Shannon was executive director of sustainability once upon a time. But yeah, no, it just got to that time of the year. It was October, November, going into the winter season, and everybody's like, I saw exploratory committees was used in the chat, so I'll use that. Good term. And so I had been like, I don't know, I hadn't been thinking about it. People had been asking me, and then I met Asada at the Association of Big Ten Students Winter Conference, and I was like, if I'm gonna do this, she's the person I want to do it with. So we definitely just shared a vision, and that was the move.
I'm not crying, you're crying. But does anyone else want to share their kind of coming into it story? And if not, we can move on.
I can say a bit. So I recall, I believe it was my sophomore year, I was ended up in some sort of call out meeting or another forum where I was listening to a fellow student present on some ideas for what he saw might be some valuable ways we could work with the local city governments towards improving things like rent relations and things like that, and was enamored by his thoughts and also his motivation to do something about what he saw as problems for students, and talked to him a bit more. Said, hey, we should maybe make a student organization where we can do something about this. And I remember he looked at me and said, why would we make a student organization? That's what Purdue student government is for. And so from that moment, I went to a call out to, as Brad said, kind of be a junior member within PSG. And then leading into my senior year, I thought that there was a lot we could do around working with the state legislature and city council as an area that hadn't been focused on as much, and one that my running mate and I built some platform items on to then make some changes for students at the state government and city council levels.
Well, for the next question, Jim Vaca, we're going to start with you. I feel like you've got a good answer. What was your campaign strategy? You had the t-shirts. Take us through it.
Yeah, so it was interesting. So I'd grown up through PSG from freshman year when a fraternity brother said, "Hey, you should just come out and get involved." And then from there, it obviously grew. I forget what I was sophomore year, and then chief of staff junior year, and then obviously president last year. And so from a campaign strategy, it was interesting. So I'll think of strategy two different ways. One was kind of the platform I ran on, which I found very interesting. And looking back 20 years ago versus where it's at today, something's the same, something's different. And then the tactics used for the strategy, because I have a feeling it's much different when I ran versus when even folks in 2005 probably ran, and you start talking about the beginning of Facebook. We had none of that. So some of the core things we ran on was we had, I don't even know if you have this, but the plus minus grading system was just coming in, and the big controversy there was a 4.0 was an A plus and an A. So if you got an A minus and you got an A plus, it didn't offset, and I guess everybody was upset about that. Diversity, obviously diversity is everything today, and even back then we were working on diversity, and it's just something that happens all the time. We actually implemented, because I saw it in the scrapbook I referenced, an online roommate finder. That had to be like completely cutting edge at the time. And now, it's probably wayward. Homecoming parade was another one that actually got implemented. And then from a strategy, and something that I learned a lot about was from getting my name out there, was having to go door to door to all the fraternities and sororities. I was in the Greek system, but there was another ticket in the Greek system. And so it was interesting to start to find out, and this is very applicable today too in the real world, who's your network? Because at some point they had to decide whose banner, which I think was like a big bed sheet, hung outside the fraternities and sororities with our slogan or whatever on it. And so it was a battle to get each of those. Bigger though was I don't know if you still do chalking. Okay, awesome. So I'm telling you, getting out all of my fraternity brothers and friends and just chalking campus, and again realizing that I had done something to somebody, had been nice, they had liked me for some reason, that they actually got out and supported me. And I was so surprised with some of the people who volunteered hours and hours, and I hardly knew them, just because of some interaction that we had at some point in my college career. And that really stuck with me, through, and still sticks with me today through my working years, about how one little thing can really make a difference. And then, we had the bag tags as well. We had all the t-shirts, we had all the posters, and going door to door in the dorms as well, finding escorts for each of the dorms to walk you through and talking to folks, and just really pounding the pavement as much as possible. And it worked out for us.
You all, that's your ticket right there. You gotta plan it. That's amazing. Caroline, I do want to go to you, but how many of us, did anyone else get grievances during their campaign where they had to go to court? If you got a grievance, raise your hand. Look at that. Wow. So Caroline, what was your strategy?
So I actually still to this day work in political communications, specifically social media marketing. So I feel like I got my start in PSG campaigning. So I mean, I don't have to tell you to be on social media. You already know that. But what Bobby and I think did really well was just number one, be ourselves and get ourselves in front of as many people as possible and not try to be something else, or I don't know, like if you're the kind that is funny on social media, I mean, be funny on social media. If you are just really involved and you're always showing up to meetings and always being the workhorse, continue to be that. Just show people who you are and get in front of as many people as you can, so that they can see you, get to know you, like you. We didn't do bag tags, but we did do sheet signs and chalking and stuff like that. But really, I mean, I think that's good life advice and campaign advice, is to just be yourself and get in front of people, and also have a really good team around you. It's kind of fun. You kind of feel like you're playing boardroom sometimes, like you get all your friends together and ideate on your slogans and colors and stuff, and allow yourself to have fun with that part. Obviously, don't get caught up in it. Brett did fine, and he had the same slogan as one of his opponents. But allow yourself to have fun and put people to work. One of my best friends was our head of Greek relations, and she still puts it on her resume today, which I think is hilarious because nobody knows what that is, but she finds it important. she's a PA, so it doesn't even matter. But yeah, bring people together, make something of it. Use your resources, use your friends, and also don't be afraid to just text people and ask them for favors, like voting for you or wearing a t-shirt or something like that.
So much wisdom. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned is it's not always about being a well-rounded person, but being able to work with a well-rounded team and harping on the strengths of others. And so thank you for bringing that to the forefront, Caroline. Hannah, do you want to go for our next question?
Yeah, I think we can start with Jim Chisholm. So how did you go about picking your team, maybe for your cabinet or for the other positions that you had to fill? And then what qualities do you look for when you were putting together your team to make the change that you wanted to happen in your role?
I think I could probably tie it back to even the last question a little bit. We're looking at numbers. Obviously, the most votes wins. So we were trying to allocate certain people for positions ahead of time that would bring X amount of votes. Might not sound the most ethical thing in the world, but I'll be honest. So we had a decent cabinet already lined up, and they were bringing anywhere from 50 to 75 votes. So that's how we try to. That was our goal to victory, if you will, to line up as many votes as possible. But to get into a well-rounded cabinet is just trying to see who I had done 2 years at PSG, so I was more of an outside candidate. So I was looking for inside help. So when it came to the cabinet, I was looking for people who had worked in PSG, was willing to work with me, even though I was an outsider, and common goals. And I think overall did a pretty good job.
Jessica, what about you?
Yeah, I was just thinking as Jim was talking, I think one of the things that I learned and I don't know, Brad can correct me on all of this. I don't really remember all the factors that we took into consideration, but I do remember that we had a pretty diverse team, meaning like different majors, inside, outside of PSG, some Greek, some not Greek. And I just remember just loving to work with each person on the team. And I think that holds true even now, gosh, however many years later, 13 or 14 years later, I'm still just as picky when it comes to people that I'm working with or hiring to work for me now. Is just surround yourself with people who don't think the same way, they can bring a different perspective to the table. And I think that that was true at Purdue, and it's still true now. And I think that that was probably my first time really realizing that. When I look back at that kind of set of people that we worked with, we all definitely had different interests. And I don't think you would have found us all together as a group anywhere else other than that that basement office of PSG. It like brought us all together. So yeah, like if you're a part of the Greek system, don't just look inside your Greek system, like look all across campus, because then you're going to be able to learn from different people's perspectives, and it actually makes it a lot more fun.
I sat out.
How many
Pass it
of-
back. Oh, go
I'd
back.
just like to know, how
Go
many
ahead,
are
Paul.
Greek? Yeah, how many are Greek? I'm just curious. How many are Greek and how many independents? I'm the independent.
I was independent.
Independent,
Only
you're
two.
not affiliated, right, Paul?
Huh?
Independent meaning you're not affiliated with Greek, right?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
that's what we called it then. I don't know about today.
Gotcha. I'm sure it's still the same terminology. I'm just so unwoke on the Greek stuff.
Also, I would love to hear how large was the team that you managed in PSG? So for example, this year we're 135 strong. So Paul, do you remember how many people did you manage?
As you guys were talking about cabinet, I don't remember we had a cabinet. I mean, I don't remember that concept. So can somebody tell me what a cabinet means?
Absolutely. So our cabinet is president, vice president, our chief of staff, our senior policy advisor, a secretary, our press secretary, and then we recently added the pro temp of Senate is also part of the cabinet, as well as a new position called the Association of Big Ten Students Liaison, who works with our other Big Ten student government equivalents.
Okay, we didn't have that.
Nope.
Okay.
No problem. How about anyone else? How big was the team that you all were managing?
I think we're around 100, right on the dot in 2011, 2012.
Yeah, I was probably 85 in 2001 or so.
I don't remember the size that we had, but my Mike Young, who was the president the year after me, when he was a senator and I was vice president, we wrote the legislation to make the Senate 3 senators instead of 2. Is it still that way?
Yeah.
So it's real big. I don't know if that's good or bad in your eyes, but sorry, or you're welcome.
And Jessica, were you going to say a number? Just okay, no, perfect.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't know, Brad, can you remember how many people we had?
I can't. I remember it was around 100. I want to say around 100. I think our cabinet was bigger than it is now. We had VPs of programming, external relations, and I think like one other, in addition to chief of staff. Oh, we had a treasurer.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, just to build on what Jessica said, it was valuable. I mean, we had a mixture not just of Greeks and independents, but of people that had been in PSG and those that hadn't. Our treasurer, I remember Eric had not been in PSG, and he brought, I thought, a refreshing perspective. But the other thing I'd say is that look, patronage in politics is a real thing, people, whether it's student politics or real life. I mean, those that are pounding the pavement with you on the campaign are going to, hope or expect that you bring them on board and give them a valuable experience that that will enrich their college, their undergrad days, and hopefully put something on the resume. But in the end too, I mean, these are people you're going to be with a lot, and you should have fun. That should be the guiding light. So you should balance, I think all those factors.
And so I think during each of our terms or every year at Purdue, there's like a defining moment. And so fortunately, unfortunately, 2020 had several defining moments for our campus. But Paul, you talked about in terms of JFK, how did you navigate that moment in leading the student body? And then after Paul, I would love to hear if anyone else has those defining moments that maybe you thought you would get through and how you handled it.
I only remember that flag, going to the flag. We must have done something. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we were all shocked. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just like a a total watershed in American life. Maybe more so than 9/11 for you. I mean, maybe more so. Actually, most of you don't even remember 9/11, okay, I guess, but I mean, younger people here, but okay, that's all I have to say about that.
I'll chime in here because I think it's relevant. We had unfortunately had a couple of, I want to say 3 or 4, maybe more, attacks on campus of people, walking to their dorms in the dark and they got accosted. There were no murders, thankfully, but people were hurt and it shook the campus in a pretty big way. And they put up, I don't know if they're still there today, but the phones that have the blue lights. Now everybody's got a cell phone, so it's a little different. But campus safety was on the minds of most everyone, just like safety from COVID is today. I would strongly encourage you to make health and safety a platform or a big part of your platform. But I will say I know that there were people that ran on campus safety and health, and it didn't really resonate with voters. You know what I mean? So not to say you put it to the side and don't represent them once elected, but you got to think about what's important. At the time, and frankly, it doesn't hurt to be in line with the President Daniels, particularly because he's doing a prudent job at managing through the pandemic, or at least from my perspective, he is. So to keep that relation strong is also a good thing.
Yeah, and I would just add on that too. I think that moment for us, all of this is so much fun, and we've talked about the fun of it and the friendships you make and the bag tags and all of the t-shirts. But I think that moment for us, you realize that you actually do have a voice on campus, and there are some serious things that are going to happen, and you are the 1 or 2 students who get the phone call to speak on behalf of the student body. And so I remember when that happened, those attacks happened within like a few days of each other, I think, if I remember correctly, and they were nasty attacks. And it actually happened to be one of the football players who was the one doing the attacks. And so it escalated pretty quickly from a fear standpoint, but also just a visibility standpoint, because it was someone on campus who kind of held that privilege of being on the football team. So it was kind of that moment of like, oh, this isn't just fun and games. Like, we actually can do something here to affect change, to make students tangibly feel safer and to be safer going to class and coming home at night and things like that. So I think probably each person hits that moment, whether it's earlier or later in the school year, where you realize that you really do have a responsibility and you learn a lot in that. And so you can plan as much as you want for the campaign, and like Brad said, choose issues that actually matter. But I guarantee you will have that moment where you realize that you really can do something, whether it's big or small, to affect lives on campus. So that's a pretty cool feeling when you're still in college, I think.
Yeah, I think, Asada, our administration was punctuated by several really important and difficult things. In the first semester, that was racist commentary from executive leadership on campus. That was also experiences that students with whom I don't share an identity were experiencing very identity-related threats and experiences. And so I think we'd all be remiss not to note that nobody on this call that is an alum is not white, right? And so when it came to creating the administration, playing off the last question, it was like so important that you cannot serve communities well if those communities are not a part of your student government. And you can be an ally, you can be educated, you can be well-read and whatever, but at the end of the day, if there is that oversight of lived experience in your administration, then you inherently will not serve that community as well as you otherwise might have been able to. And then, of course, second semester was punctuated by the COVID-19 pandemic. And tireless nights, mostly on Asada's part, of just trying to figure out how to navigate the new aid package that was coming from the federal government, how we could disperse that money, if we could get that money into students' hands, and more importantly, move to liquidate the remaining student government budget to be able to provide direct support to students. Because obviously a lot of students live off campus, rely on their student employment to pay rent and eat. And some of the tragic stories that were just coming in through our email were like, hey, I lost my job, my mom lost her job, I can't afford my rent, and I can't eat. And of course, with the dining halls moving to slower capacity, and students that lived off campus not having a dining option, we did the hot meal program, and at the behest of the university and the people who hold the money, we're able to liquidate that money and be able to create that kind of programming. But definitely to go off of what Jessica was saying, like, it's gonna come at you. You will, like, we came in with our 4 E's, we were ready to go, we were ready to rock, and we were ready to tie up the end of the year with like a nice bow. And then things just kind of hit you out of nowhere. And I think adaptability is one of the best qualities you can have.
Absolutely. Hannah?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start with Jim Baca, since I know you pulled out your scrapbook for this question, and then I'll popcorn around if there's anyone else who wants to answer. So I was wondering if you had, from that scrapbook, maybe your greatest PSG memory or something that you accomplished that you're really proud of from the time that you started.
Well, the thing that I'm certainly most proud of, and that probably brought me the most stress, but learning at the same time, and it'll be interesting if it's still in place. But when I was president, there was a lot of tension between the executive board and the Senate. I'm sure that's still the way it is today. But our Senate was based on where you lived. So I think Greeks had a couple votes, but then it was like what residence hall you were in. And it really didn't make much sense. And it spawned a bunch of just bad, what I'll call, kind of bad behavior, for just generalizing it. So we actually shut down student government and brought it back up under the next administration to come in, where Senate was based off of the school you were in, which to us made a heck of a lot more sense. And that was a huge fight. It was a huge controversy. Me going into the Senate and saying, thanks for all you've done, you're no longer needed, have a good night, more or less was my speech. Maybe a little bit more eloquent than that, maybe not. And I hope it turned out for the best, but we really thought it was the best way to go.
Thank you. Yeah, it actually is still set up that way. So we are still represented by college, and then with Carolyn now we have 3 instead of 2.
Awesome.
I guess if there's anyone else who wants to share maybe a story or something they're proud of they accomplished during their time.
I have a story. You don't mind?
Absolutely.
One of the things that I did under my administration was set up a committee on political education and information, which was, the idea was just to help students become more educated politically. And one of the we had 2 dramatic things that happened. I mean, this may take me more than 1 minute to finish this, if you don't mind. One was, we had a debate between Norman Thomas. If you know that name, Norman Thomas was a socialist candidate for president in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. I mean, I can't remember the years, okay, but he was still alive. He must have been 80 then. So we had a debate between him and a famous right-wing commentator. I think it was James Buckley, I think, right? Anyway, what was astounding to me was not only was the auditorium, I mean, not the big auditorium, but the room that had held 500 people. Not only was that full, it was overflow. We had an overflow crowd. We had to put a TV in another place. So people came out of the woodwork in ways from out of the area they never would have expected. And the other thing that happened was, we had this I really remember, because this is at the end of my presidency. We had some kind of peace conference or something like that. And so we asked somebody from the Soviet Union to come, and they brought in somebody from the Soviet embassy. This may sound stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I'm sitting here talking to this guy from the embassy who was probably KGB, okay? Not the ambassador, somebody probably better than the ambassador, okay? And so we were talking about the arrangements for the next morning, and he was talking about that he likes to sleep late in the morning. And you may not believe this, but in my head, communists never sleep, you know? And the idea that he wanted to sleep in the morning blew my mind. Okay, that's all.
Thank you so much, Paul.
I believe that's a mic drop, Paul.
I think that Brett, you were called out in the chat by Caroline, if you would like to go.
Getting called out by Caroline's seldom a good thing. Let's see. Lifeline law, yeah. The largest campaign platform item that we identified, ran on, was actually to change a state law in Indiana that would allow for limited immunity in cases of underage individuals who had overconsumed alcohol and needed medical attention. And during my term, we worked really closely with our counterparts at IU and Ball State and Butler to create a really coalition of student governments around the state to go down to Indianapolis to go to the State House and lobby for this. From our first at our representatives for each of our college communities, and then to the committee hearings and beyond that. And we had that passed. It worked out well, like right at the end of the term, just based upon the state legislature, that passed. And then it went to at the time, Governor Mitch Daniels for signature. And seeing it, we would all gather around our laptops in Stewart G6 in the basement for each of these votes as it went through the State House, and seeing the green and red lights light up, almost exclusively green, was one of the highlights for sure. And then at the end, we got to go down to Governor Daniels' office for the signing ceremony. And I still have, to this day, one of my most prized possessions is that pin, one of the pins that he used to sign that.
Wow, that's a really cool story. I remember last year in my public health class, they did like a presentation, and one of the parts of it was they talked about how student government had helped in the creation of that law. So that's really cool.
That's awesome. It's been really cool to see something that we thought was a good idea at the time, and something that even we thought was maybe a little too ambitious, but we stuck with it. It's been cool to see just how many, even some of the state senators now who helped us push that through. It's really taken on a life of its own, and there's a lot of people who believe in this and are still helping to make sure that it goes into educational curriculums today.
Looks like Shannon, did you have a question?
Yes, so I just wanted to make a comment about that. I think that's so awesome that you passed that. And I was in the Greek system before, and I just wanted to kind of say that I think that has helped a lot of my old sorority sisters through a lot. So I think on behalf of them, I would like to thank you for doing that.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate you saying that. That's awesome to hear.
I think maybe we'll do a couple more on this topic. So a story or an accomplishment that you want to share, and then maybe we'll open it up to other students if there's more individual questions. So I don't know if Jen Chisholm or Brad or if anyone else who hasn't gone has anything that they would like to share about something they accomplished or a good memory of their time in PSG.
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, I guess one of the neat experiences was having lunch with Dr. Berian, who was the president at the time. I always thought that was a neat experience, and sitting on at the board trustee meetings. I have very fond memories of that.
Yeah, hard to follow, Brett's accomplishment with the state legislature, which is truly incredible. But I may be one of the only former VPs on the line. So, well, Caroline also was, and Asada, you'll understand. But as VP, you're president of the Senate. So, Jessica will remember. I think the day after we won, I started reading Robert's Rules of Order as if it were like a novel, and it's not an exciting novel, let me tell you. But do know how to run Robert's Rules of Order, because it impacts everything from your ability to sort of own the room, run a meeting, but also the relations that were mentioned before between the executive branch and the Senate. But the thing about PSG is you don't govern anything, right? A bill passed by the Senate doesn't change a law or anything like that, but it's an important expression of the student body, because their representatives through schools, which is how it was set up when we were in PSG. It's the voice exercised. So bills that pass are important messages, right? And I remember thinking how important it was to sort of carry that message. One such message that I remember was one of the senators put forth a bill. It was a pretty simple bill that was there was a deficit of state funding for buildings. What was it called? M&M, something like that, maintenance and restoration, something like that. And we were 98 million in the hole, and we needed it from the state legislature. So one of our senators passed a one-page bill, or set up a one-page bill. It passed, and we, in our state house visit, went down and put it before Brian Bosma, who I think may still be the Speaker of the State House. And he literally, while we were in there, there's about 10 of us students in there, picked up the phone and called, the Secretary of the Senate, just sort of see where that bill, to fund Purdue was. Or to fill this gap, and it ended up moving along. Now, I think our advocacy may not have been the thing that tipped the scale. It may have passed anyways, but I think it was important to carry that bill forward, which was an expression from the students. So all that said, don't discount like the legislation, the bill, and understand sort of what those mean. But I felt really good about that. I felt like that was a good accomplishment.
Brad, to piggyback off of the parliamentary procedure, there was one of the funniest moments I can remember was in a university Senate session last year, and I tried to flex my little parliamentary procedure muscles a bit with the Gordian knot, because the session was getting a little out of control. So for those unfamiliar, the Gordian knot lets the presiding officer return the meeting to a previous point of order. And I was, I remember I ran from a conference room down the hall from where Asada is right now, which is where I was taking in the meeting over Zoom, ran and got the book. I think it's like page 80 something. I ran back in, and out of breath, I was thumbing through to like find it because it was my speaking time. And I was like, oh, the Gordian knot. I couldn't remember what the heck it was called. That was so funny.
Thank you for sharing, Joe. Did you have something else?
Nope.
But my least favorite question, well, not least favorite, I answer it, but is what does PSG even do? Why are y'all even there? What is PSG? And so we are going to give you an opportunity to ask questions, but if you take absolutely nothing, and if you don't run, and that's okay, but if you take nothing else, it's that your voice has value. The voice of students has value. Your position has value. And it's okay. And whether you're president or vice president or a senator or a director, I think everyone tonight has harped on why those positions are important, why they got to where they are. Even being a part of a campaign team, it could lead to your resume. You could still be friends. And it shows you don't know how much it means to the people that you're helping out. So I know that's what I have a newfound passion for these last 4 months in office, but I hope that you all were able to take away some valuable items. We still got 10 minutes. So does anyone have any questions? Shannon, go for it.
Hello. Okay. My biggest question is, I feel that a lot of us go through imposter syndrome. And when you guys, I think being elected into office is very telling of your capabilities and your desire to lead and your all of the above. But especially during debates, how did you face your feeling of being incompetent? And how did you feel incompetent ever? And how did you battle that?
Asada, I would love to answer this question.
By all means.
Or sorry, and Vice President Dar. I remember during the debate, there was a moment where, like, because the vice presidents went first, right? And then the presidents debated. I'm not sure if y'all followed the same platform during your time. but Asada had gone and she knocked it out of the park, absolutely killed it. And it was my turn. And of course, you know, you have your canned 2-minute ready to go intro speech. And I pulled Asada aside in the hallway after she went and I said, I forgot everything I'm about to say. And I was like, I'm kind of freaking out, you know, like to give a bit of background, I was a first generation and transfer student to Purdue. So you're already, you feel like a fish out of water when you transfer into an institution the size of Purdue when I was coming from a small community college in Tennessee. And being first gen in my family, you know, there's parts of that were just really compounding in that moment and putting me in a pressure cooker. And Asada was just like, be yourself. I just remember her, like, she was like, just be yourself. And I went out there and I was myself and it was great. And so I think, Shannon, remembering just always being centered on why you're doing what you're doing, because I think it is obvious when people try to pad a resume, right, or fabricate their reason for doing what they're doing. And I think it makes it really easy when you feel so centered on your mission and your desire for servant leadership that even in moments where you forgot your canned speech, you're able to go out and speak from the heart about the impact that you want to have. And I know Purdue's new Asada, why am I blanking? The programming Steps to Leaps is really centered on these pillars, and one of the pillars being impact. And so I think if you're focused on your impact and your mission, that it'll be okay.
I remember that debate, and I remember I was super nervous, and Brad, you were not nervous at all. If you remember that, he was excited. Yeah, but you were excited. He was so excited. And I remember, for some reason, I just distinctly remember it was actually Easter weekend. So I had been home for the weekend and needed to get back early to kind of prepare for this debate. I was also a first generation person in my family to go to college. I don't know if that played into it or not, but I just remember, yeah, of course, whether it's doing a debate or whether it's a job interview, you know, when you graduate, or whether it's giving a big presentation in class or even at work, I think that happens to most of us. And it's just a human feeling of kind of thinking, what am I doing? I don't deserve to be here. Like, what was I even thinking, even trying? But it's just like with anything else, if you just push that thinking outside of your mind and you lean back on all of that experience that got you to that point, you can't really do anything wrong. So it's the same thing with running for president or vice president. You have great ideas. There's no way in that moment that you're not going to remember those great ideas. You just have to kind of take a deep breath and realize that you deserve to be there. But that's the case for anything hard that you might do at Purdue or otherwise. So yeah, I definitely remember having that sickening feeling because you're in front of your peers. But I think Brad pumped me up in one way or the other, and we got through it and we had a great time too. So yeah.
Brad just stays cool as a cucumber.
I just remember he worked really hard on his closing speech, and I remember how excited you were to give that speech. And it was like this epic moment of like bringing down the entire auditorium. I wish I had a copy of that, Brad, because I bet it was amazing.
I was that did help. I had my closing remarks prepared, but I think at one point, Shannon, you asked about how do you feel like, you know, competent. Like, long ago, I learned to embrace my incompetence. So I was sort of liberated going into the debate, knowing that I wasn't going to be the smartest person in the room. I mean, I say that tongue in cheek, but you know, look, if you keep it simple, you know your ideas, you're just conveying them. People in the crowd, they didn't put their name forward. They're not putting their names on signs and on the sidewalks. They want to hear what you have to say. They're there to hear you. So if you're running for the right reasons, you know, you have no problem. You have no problem.
That's such great advice, Brad. Thank you so much. And Jessica.
I think something that Condoleezza Rice said at a dinner last year stuck with me about, you know, she was getting informally over dinner conversation asked about, you know, what helps her through difficult times and, you know, what has helped her, you know, put her career into context because she's had this long and storied career. And something she said was people, and I think she was quoting someone else, but she said, people don't remember what you accomplish or what you say you're going to accomplish. They remember how you make them feel. And I remember that stuck with me definitely, especially that was like right pre-COVID. And that was like really important, just like to recenter yourself on empathy for sure.
I want to be very respectful of all of your time. So does anyone else have a question?
Looks like Veronica
Oh,
does.
perfect.
I do, but wait, can you guys hear me? I do, but also there's some other people here that might have a question that like has a longer response, you know what I'm saying? So okay, but okay, so
Own it. Own your time, girl.
thank you guys. I'm Veronica. I am a Polytechnic senator, and just in case if any of the alumni women know, I'm in a Windsor Hall dorm right now, just in case that means anything to anyone. But I wanted to ask about I'm assuming no, because no one brought it up, but if anyone has any experiences losing and what you did different, like, you know what I'm saying, like a learning experience in the campaign about like something that didn't work that they want to share, like how they switched it up to make it work the next time around. It doesn't have to be like, yeah, but I'm assuming no one does because I don't think anyone mentioned it, but if not, I have a different question.
I can answer that one quickly. I didn't lose my campaign, but I worked on different campaigns, and nobody that I worked with on the campaign, like the candidates never got dirty, but I know that anybody who did get dirty or took things personally or took things too seriously, they were always disappointed whether they won or didn't. So just don't be a jerk. I mean, it sounds simple, but I mean, emotions run high sometimes. So yeah, even if you win, if you were a jerk on the campaign trail, which I have a strong feeling you wouldn't be, but remember to encourage your team to also not be jerks, because someone might, I don't know, steal a sign on your behalf. Well, that comes back to you and nobody wins there. So that's just the one thing that I saw that might be helpful for you all.
Absolutely. I think everybody plays the grievances game. A lot of us put our hands up about having to go to grievance hearings. And of course, there's a points-based system that works into that. But I think early on, even when we noticed that there were things that would warrant a grievance, like our MO and our team was just wave at it and watch it go by. Because if we invest energy in negative things, you're going to get an output for that same input. So our philosophy was just like, if we make this investment instead in continuing to do the right things and continuing to have the conversations that need to be had, we're spending less time arguing with people who ultimately have lost because they are attacking character and they're, whatever. And so, I think the philosophy of just waving at stuff, recognizing which balls you're juggling are rubber and which ones are glass is really important, especially with the campaign trail.
Thank you. And if no one had anything, I was going to ask about Caroline, you running twice. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Well, it is that time, 8:30, and we're going to honor our word and get you out of here. But I had such a good time. I'm honored. We are honored, Hannah and I both, to be a part of such a long legacy of incredible Boilermakers. So thank you so much for joining us. We will post this. We're going to shout you out on social medias. And I know development is going to reach out with a thank you gift for you coming back today. So thank you all so much. So good to see you.
Thank you for having us.
It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boiler up.
Boiler up.